Overflowing toilets, bedbugs, and high heat inside Mexico's migrant detention centers. Acajucan, Mexico. Migrants have been held in a wrestling arena, at a fairground and in government offices. They've been forced to. Mexico's detention centers have at times reached triple, quadruple, and even quintuple their capacity. Detainees at some. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador campaigned for the presidency last year on promises that his migration policy would break from his predecessor's emphasis on enforcement and focus instead on respecting migrants' human rights and treating them with dignity. But from the Trump, this iron-fisted approach has trying to cross the southwest border of the United States. But it has also from April to June, the Mexican authorities detained about 73,400 migrants, well over double the number detained during the first 3 months of the year. The sudden increase has created unsustainable conditions in many of Mexico's approximately 60 centers, said Salva La Cruz, a coordinator at a migrants advocacy group in the southern city of Tapachula. "Everything's a disaster," he said. Under pressure from critics, including the government's human rights ombudsman, the López Obrador administration has acknowledged in recent days the sorry state of the detention system and has promised improvements. In the meantime, however, things remain grim. Interviews with several asylum seekers released in recent days from a large detention center here in Acajucan, a small city in southeastern Mexico, painted a picture of hardship and scarcity. People slept on thin mattresses wherever they could find space. Others didn't even. One Cuban migrant said that right before he was detained, he had been mugged and injured in southern Mexico. But in the detentions, the migrants described filthy conditions, which would improve only when delegations of human rights observers or others were scheduled to drop by. In advance of the visit, "You could get sick from being there," said a Honduran asylum seeker who gave only his surname, Escobar, out of concern for his safety. Conditions within the detention system have been. But the failings have. In April, after overseeing a sharp drop in detentions and deportations during his first 4 months in office, Mr. López Obrador on illegal immigration. Spurred by President, these efforts accelerated in June when on Mexico. But while the Mexican government may have been quick to respond to Mr. Trump's demands, it apparently made little effort to prepare its detention network for the resulting stress. The National Migration Institute, which oversees the migrant detention system, had already been struggling in the face of Mr. López Obrador's effort to bring down the cost of government. As part of this, since the spring, reports of the deteriorating conditions have multiplied. There is concern about the violation of rights for people who will inevitably go to immigration stations, the Citizens Council of the National Migration Institute, a group that advises the migration agency, said in a statement in mid-June. Due to the increase yet the situation has barely improved. In an interview in his office, Edgar Corzo Sosa, rapporteur for migrant issues at the National Human Rights Commission, an autonomous government agency, said that in a normal migration flow, space in the system would be sufficient. But Mexico is. Mr. Corzo picked up a document the government's daily population count for each of the detention centers and began citing statistics. Some of the facilities in the northern border city of Reynosa, 210 migrants were crowded into a facility designed for 50, Mr. Corzo said. In a center in during a recent visit to a center in the southern state of Chiapas, Mr. Corzo documented about 400 detainees in a space meant for no more than 80. Another Chiapas "Tell me if this isn't problematic," he said. There are many A few days earlier, a Salvadoran migrant had died while being held in an improvised detention center in the offices of the National Migration Institute in the northern city of Monterrey. It was a rare death. Migration officials have also been wrestling with a large and increasing number of child migrants traveling either unaccompanied or with families. About 130% more migrant children from Central America were detained during the first 6 months of the year than during the same period last year, according to the National Migration Institute. In May, a 10-year-old Guatemalan girl died after falling from a bedbug in a major detention center in Mexico City, officials said. The authorities Marcelo Ebrard, Mexico's foreign secretary, owned up to the poor conditions of the detention centers. They are very bad, he said during a news conference. The assessment presented to us is terrible. The drains do not work, the abandoned bathrooms, he said. The El Paso administration has earmarked some $3.1 million to improve several major detention centers in southern Mexico and says it intends to renovate centers in the north as well. But migrants advocates point out that the government has not made an equivalent commitment to expanding the resources of the government's overburdened asylum agency, which was on the verge of collapse even before the surge in detentions. In the budget allocations, you can measure the political will, said Ana Saez Valenzuela, General Director of Sin Fronteras, a migrants advocacy group in Mexico City. Mr. Corzo said he hoped the El Paso administration follows through on its promise to improve conditions in the centers and its treatment of detainees. It's a new government, he said. It's a new opportunity, but, he acknowledged, there are big challenges.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.